Welcome to the deep dive. We're going deep on fake news today.
Fake news.
What it is,
Yeah.
how to spot it, and why it matters.
Mm-hmm.
You know, now more than ever. And wow, you guys gave us a lot to work with.
Yeah.
Videos, articles, expert analysis,
Uh-huh.
even some resources for kids.
Oh, wow.
It seems like no matter what age you are,
Right.
you got to be on the lookout for this stuff.
Yeah, it really underscores the fact that this is something that pervades every level of the information ecosystem.
For sure.
And it's interesting because we have this conception that it's very much tied to the internet.
Yeah.
But one of the videos you gave me, fake news. Cosa sono y como reconocen.
Right.
It actually traces it way back.
Yeah.
Historically.
I was shocked to learn about that example about Napoleon's death back in 1814.
Oh, yeah.
Market manipulation with fake news,
Yeah.
like centuries ago.
It's wild, right?
Wild.
But I think that kind of underscores the point that this idea
Yeah.
of spreading false information for gain
Right.
is not new.
Yeah.
So before we get too deep into the history,
Okay.
let's define exactly what we're dealing with here.
Yeah, well, it's fake news.
Right.
It seems like anytime I turn around,
Uh-huh.
if somebody doesn't like a news story, it's fake news.
Oh, yeah. The term gets thrown around a lot.
Yeah.
But when we're looking at these sources, we're really talking about articles or any kind of content
Okay.
with information that is distorted, that's been invented or misleading.
Okay.
The key here is the intent
Yeah.
to deceive,
Okay.
to manipulate, or to achieve some kind of goal.
Hmm.
And often that goal is financial or political.
So it's not just my uncle on Facebook ranting about conspiracies.
Well, right.
Yeah.
So that is contributing to misinformation, but that's different from intentionally crafted fake news aimed at misleading people on a much larger scale.
Okay, got it.
Mm-hmm.
I remember that one of the videos actually talked about 7
Oh, wow.
different types of misinformation.
Right.
One of them I remember was fabricated content.
Mhm.
Can you give me a quick rundown of what some of these types are?
Sure. So Claire Wardle outlines this in the fake news.
How about?
Cosa sono e come riconosce il video.
Okay.
So obviously you have the completely fabricated content.
Right.
You also have things like manipulated content,
Okay.
where real information is being twisted or taken out of context to fit a narrative.
Yeah.
There's also satire or parody,
Right.
which can be mistaken for real news if it's not labeled as such.
Yeah.
So it really is a spectrum.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it so tricky.
Speaking of tricky,
Yeah.
that example from one of the videos about the Maturta exam in Italy
Uh-huh.
being replaced with self-certification.
Oh my gosh.
Can you imagine?
That's terrifying.
Talk about anxiety for
yeah.
these students.
Right.
Yeah, it seems like they're really playing on hopes and fears.
Exactly. And this is a classic tactic of fake news,
Right.
is to exploit specific groups by tapping into their anxieties.
Hmm.
So in this case, stressed out students. They're going to be more susceptible to that kind of information.
We've talked about how fake news isn't a new thing,
Mm-hmm.
but why does it feel like it's everywhere now?
That's a great question, and your sources offer some good insight into that. I think it really boils down to how we consume information in the digital age.
Right?
The fake news, Cosa sono e come riconoscono video, highlights how easy it is to unintentionally share things.
Yeah.
You see something shocking or intriguing, and you hit that share button without even thinking twice about it.
I was totally guilty of that.
You know, me too.
I've almost done that so many times.
Yeah.
And then you stop and you're like, wait a minute,
Yeah.
let me actually look into this.
Mhm.
And thank goodness I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, you get so caught up
Right.
in the moment.
And that's exactly what these people spreading fake news are banking on.
Right.
They exploit that impulse to share without verifying.
Gotcha.
But it's not just on us as individuals. The video also points out that traditional media, even though they're aiming for accuracy, can inadvertently amplify fake news in the rush to break stories.
So even journalists contribute to the problem sometimes.
It happens, yeah, which is why careful verification is so important,
Yeah.
especially now with the 24/7 news cycle.
Right.
Then, of course, you have the organized groups,
Yeah.
political, ideological, commercial, using fake news to push agendas.
And then the scary part,
Yeah.
the troll farms,
Oh, yeah.
bots.
It's not just your average internet troll anymore, is it?
No, I don't think so.
The Nova Lectio video
Right.
really goes into this.
Okay.
And how these organized groups are operating.
Right.
It's really chilling because these are coordinated efforts,
Okay.
sometimes with substantial backing, to spread propaganda and sway public opinion.
So how are these troll farms different from just Like your average online troll
Right.
who's trying to...
Just to get a rise out of people.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it comes down to scale and sophistication. We're talking about networks of fake accounts, sometimes thousands of them,
Wow.
working in concert.
Uh-huh.
They create believable personas,
Right.
mimic real users,
Yeah.
engage in conversations designed to manipulate perceptions.
That's scary.
Mm.
That's really scary.
And we've seen examples of this.
Yeah.
The Novolectio video talked about the Russian Internet Research Agency and their interference in the 2016 U.S. elections.
Right. They created these fake groups
Right.
posing as Americans to stir up division.
Exactly.
And weren't they even targeting both sides
That's right.
of the political spectrum?
They weren't necessarily pro one candidate or the other. It was more anti-democratic process.
Gotcha.
The goal was to erode trust in the system itself.
So they were pushing divisive content
Yeah.
on things like race and immigration.
They honed in on those hot button issues, the
Right.
things that they knew would trigger strong emotional responses. And then we saw that also play out in the Philippines under Duterte, where his supporters used social media to harass journalists and critics.
Wow. So online tactics with real-world consequences.
Absolutely. And the video highlights how this can create a climate of fear.
Right.
Silence dissent.
Yeah. This is seriously scary stuff.
Is
All this talk about troll farms is making me feel a little helpless, to be honest.
It's easy to feel that way, and I think that's exactly what they want.
Okay.
But the truth is, we're not powerless.
Okay, good.
We just need to recognize their tactics and learn how to fight back.
Okay, I like the sound of that.
Yeah.
So how do we fight back?
Right.
Okay, so how do we fight back?
Right. One of the simplest but most powerful things you can do is fact check.
The Natalia video was really big on that,
Uh-huh.
especially checking if a story's already been debunked.
Right.
There's so many fact-checking websites now.
There are.
Snopes, factcheck.org, PolitiFact.
Yeah.
All great reasons. And reverse image search?
Yeah, yeah.
That can help you figure out if a photo has been taken out of context or if it's been doctored.
Exact.
So before you hit that share button,
Right.
take a second.
Take a breath. Yeah.
Verify.
Don't just trust what pops up in your feed,
Absolutely.
no matter how many likes or shares it has.
Don't trust the algorithm.
Yeah.
Think of it this way.
Okay.
You wouldn't just believe everything some random person told you on the street, right?
Right.
Apply that same skepticism online.
Okay, so fact-checking is key.
Mm-hmm.
What else can we do to fight back against this?
We'll resist the urge to feed the trolls.
Oh.
I know it's tempting
It is.
to get in there and argue.
You want to set the record straight?
Right. You think you're doing the right thing, but it can actually backfire.
I've definitely learned that the hard way.
Oh, yeah.
You waste so much time arguing with somebody online.
Right.
You're probably not arguing in good faith anyway.
They're just looking for a reaction.
And remember, engagement equals attention online.
Right?
So the more you react, the more visibility they get.
Sometimes the best response is no response.
It really is.
Yeah. Or if they're violating the platform's rules,
All right.
report them.
Report them.
Speaking of reporting,
Yeah.
does that actually do anything?
Yeah.
Does anybody even look at those reports?
You know, it varies from platform to platform.
Okay.
But I do think reporting can make a difference.
Yeah.
These social media companies are under a lot of pressure
Right.
to deal with fake news and user reports.
Yeah.
Really help them flag problematic content.
It might not be perfect.
No system is perfect.
Right.
But I think it at least sends a message
Okay.
that we're not going to tolerate this.
We're watching you.
Right.
Yeah.
Another really important way to fight back
Okay.
is by spreading awareness.
Okay.
Talk to your friends and family about fake news.
Mm-hmm.
Share resources on how to identify it.
Knowledge is power, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I love that.
The more people understand how it works, the less effective it's going to be.
Exactly. It's all about digital literacy.
Okay.
Just as we teach kids to read and write, we need to teach them how to navigate the online world safely and critically.
It's like that Smile and Learn video.
Oh, yeah.
So simple, but so effective
Mm-hmm.
for teaching those critical thinking skills to kids.
And we need to start young.
Right?
The earlier we can instill these skills in children, the better equipped they'll be to deal with all this misinformation
Yeah.
as they get older.
Okay, this is all great advice,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm still feeling a little pessimistic. It feels like an uphill battle
Yeah.
against this constant wave of fake news.
It's understandable to feel that way,
Yeah.
but I don't want you to give up hope.
Okay.
Even small actions can have a ripple effect.
Like what we talked about.
Yeah, like fact-checking before sharing, talking to our families about it,
Right.
the more we talk about it. The more we raise awareness,
Mm-hmm.
and the more we can kind of shift that collective mindset towards valuing truth and accuracy.
Like we're all part of this giant immune system,
Oh, I love that.
working together to fight off the virus of fake news.
Yes, a strong immune system means building our critical thinking skills,
Right.
being careful about the information we consume,
Mm-hmm.
and supporting those organizations that are dedicated to combating misinformation.
There are so many groups doing such great work.
There are.
International Fact-Checking Network,
Yeah.
First Draft, Full Fact.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and they're not just debunking fake news.
Right.
They're creating tools and resources to help people understand it.
Exactly. They are truly on the front lines of this fight,
Yeah.
and they need our support,
Right.
both financially and by spreading awareness of their work.
This deep dive has been a real eye-opener.
Good.
I used to think of fake news as this annoying nuisance,
Uh-huh.
but it's so much bigger than that.
It is.
It's a threat to democracy, to informed decision-making.
Yeah. Right. Even to our mental health. It really is a threat we can't afford to ignore.
Right.
But here's the good news.
Okay.
It's a threat we can overcome.
Okay, good.
It starts with understanding the problem, honing those critical thinking skills, and taking action to combat it.
And that's something we can all do,
It is.
no matter what our background is
Right.
or our tech skills.
It's a collective effort.
Right.
A fight for truth in a world where information is increasingly weaponized.
Yeah.
But here's the encouraging part.
Okay.
We're not alone in this fight.
I was just thinking that.
Yeah.
It's easy to get bogged down
Right.
in all the negativity.
Uh-huh.
But there are people all over the world who are fighting the good fight.
There are.
Researchers, journalists, fact checkers, everyday citizens.
Right.
Yeah.
We can all be part of the solution.
I like that.
Before we wrap up, I want to touch on something the Novolectio video brought up,
Okay.
and that is the use of artificial intelligence to create even more sophisticated fake news.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, this is a whole other level.
That is scary.
Think about deepfakes.
Right.
These incredibly realistic videos
Right.
that can be used to make anyone say or do anything.
It's a real concern.
As AI technology advances,
Yeah.
the potential for misuse grows.
Right.
We've already seen deepfakes used to spread misinformation,
Right.
create chaos,
Yeah.
and it's only going to become more prevalent.
So it's like we're entering this new era
Right.
of information warfare where it's even harder to tell what's real and what's fake.
It's a challenge we need to face head on.
Yeah.
We need to invest in research and development of technologies that can detect and mitigate AI-generated fake news.
Right. And we need to have serious conversations
Yes.
about the ethics of these technologies.
Absolutely. How do we prevent their misuse?
Right.
How do we ensure that AI is used responsibly and ethically?
Yeah. These are big questions
Huge questions.
that we need to be thinking about as a society.
Yeah.
It's a lot to process,
Mm-hmm.
but it's incredibly fascinating.
It is.
This feels like a whole other deep dive waiting to happen.
It does.
The intersection of AI and fake news.
Right. And it highlights the fact that this fight against fake news is
Yeah.
constantly evolving.
Right.
As the methods become more sophisticated, so must our strategies.
So we can't just rely on the same old tactics.
Nope. We need to keep learning and adapting.
It's a lifelong learning process.
It is.
And it's one that we all need to be engaged in.
Absolutely.
This deep dive has been incredible.
Good. I'm glad.
I feel like I have a whole new understanding of this issue.
I'm glad to hear that.
But before we go, I have one final question for you.
Okay.
Given everything we've talked about, the history of fake news, how it spreads, and these increasingly sophisticated tactics,
Yeah.
especially with AI, are you optimistic or pessimistic about the future?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? I understand why you'd ask that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a lot to take in. But I wouldn't say I'm pessimistic.
Oh.
I actually see some reasons for hope.
Really?
Yeah.
In the face of all this, what makes you so optimistic?
Well, I think we're at a turning point.
Okay.
Awareness of the problem is growing, and people are getting better at spotting fake news.
Okay.
They're less likely to fall for those manipulative tactics we talked about.
Yeah, even in the last few years, it feels like there's been a shift
Right.
in how people are talking about fake news
Yeah,
and the importance of media literacy.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And that awareness is leading to action.
Okay.
We're seeing more educational initiatives.
Right.
Fact-checking resources are becoming more accessible. And social media platforms are facing more pressure to take responsibility for what they host.
So you're saying the tide is turning?
I think so.
Okay.
It's a slow process.
Right.
But I think we're moving in the right direction.
Okay.
People are realizing this isn't just some abstract problem.
Yeah.
This affects us all. Our communities, our democracies.
It's like we're finally waking up and realizing we can't just sit back and passively consume information anymore.
We can't.
We have to actually do something.
Exactly.
So where does that leave us? What do we do moving forward?
Well, we can't be complacent.
Right.
That critical thinking piece is crucial. We need to keep honing those skills we've been talking about.
Okay.
Checking sources, evaluating evidence, being aware of our own biases.
That sounds like a lot of work.
It is.
Okay.
But it's so worth it.
Okay.
Think of it as an investment in our own well-being and the health of our society.
Okay.
And remember, we're not alone in this.
Right.
There are people all over the world.
Yeah, we talked about that.
Working to combat fake news.
Researchers.
Journalists.
Fact checkers.
Everyday citizens.
Everyday people like us.
We can all be part of the solution.
Okay.
And that's what's really empowering.
That is empowering.
Knowing we're not powerless against this.
Right.
Every time we question a headline, fact check a story, teach somebody else how to spot fake news, we're making a difference.
This deep dive has been so eye-opening.
Good.
And honestly, a little unnerving at times.
It can be.
But I do feel more prepared now to deal with this whole crazy information landscape.
I'm glad to hear that.
Thank you so much for guiding us through this.
It's been my pleasure.
And to all of you listening out there.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us on the deep dive.
Keep asking questions, stay curious, and most importantly, stay skeptical.
Until next time, stay informed and keep diving deeper.